Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and our continuing series on the MiSTer FPGA DE-10 Nano board. And one of the questions I get the most often is MiSTer worth it? Because it is not a cheap device and people ask me, is there value in MiSTer itself? And I'm definitely going to answer that question in this video because it's going to be really interesting. Before we get too far involved, definitely do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down there as well. But I'm not going to lie, MiSTer is not a cheap device, and unfortunately the cost of the DE-10 Nano board has gone up. Currently, if you buy a pre-built system, it's going to be $370 with tax and shipping. And I'm doing all the math based on my location. That's $400. That is not a cheap device. We're getting close to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X territory for a small project board. So I'm not going to lie and say it's inexpensive, but the value comes in its versatility. Let's just compare it to some of the things we've talked about. You want to buy a Neo Geo on eBay? It's going to be $400. There you go. We've already paid for that. If you want to buy the two games I'm showing here, those an extra $4,000. So now all of a sudden, we're going to start seeing the math. And the MiSTer plays the Neo Geo incredibly well. I have a review on this core, and I'll leave all the previous links down below. But you're definitely going to get an extremely good experience playing Neo Geo games on the MiSTer. Almost as good, if not completely as good, as the original hardware. But these two games alone, if you buy them, are going to be about $2,000 a piece. So just to play these two games I reviewed on the core, you're going to spend $4,400 versus the MiSTer's $400. So total savings so far? $4,000. But let's move on to another system entirely. We have the Sega Cdx. It's not a cheap system. Current eBay pricing, about $500. So now all of a sudden this one system costs more than the MiSTer by $100. It's going to do an extremely good job of playing all the Sega Genesis games from all the regions, and we're not even talking about having to region mod and the cost of that. And you're also going to get the Sega CD games region free as well. So you're getting two consoles for $500 for the Cdx or for $400 for the MiSTer. So now all of a sudden we have saved $4,500 total just by using the MiSTer. Of course, it's not original hardware, it's FPGA hardware emulation, but that still seems fair. You want to talk PC Engine DuoR? It's actually kind of cheap for $300, but you can see the money just keeps going up and up and up. And obviously, like we did in the review, it's an extremely really easy way to play PC Engine games. You're going to get HuCard compatibility. You're also going to be able to get something like the PC Engine or TurboGrafx CD, but you get Super Graphics support too. You can't play those on the PC Engine, so that's a whole nother console we need to factor the value proposition for when we compare it against MiSTer. And the Super Graphics is a really fun system to play as far as the games are concerned, but if we put all those numbers together right now, we're at a total savings of $4,800. We're almost to $5,000 just by using MiSTer, but it seems kind of unfair to compare the cost of the games. Let's just go with flash cart pricing. Now our total savings is $800 just for the Neo Geo stuff alone, and the total savings will be shown so far, $1,300. We've saved $1,300 just by playing with MiSTer, but let's keep it rolling, because the only way to prove if we're right or not is to show the math. The Super Famicom's actually a really cheap system still because it's so prolific. We're talking $60 and has RGB out, so that is really nice compared to other hardware. It does an absolutely amazing job of emulating all of the Super Nintendo and Super Famicom hardware. It is one of my favorite cores, and we just need to throw a flash cart on for the price of that as well, because that's how we're going to be doing this going forward, just flash carts, because honestly, you're not buying games to play on MiSTer, you're using ROM, so it's only fair that we keep the pricing consistent on that as well. So with a flash cart, now our total savings is looking something like $1,460 or near $1,500, and that's a lot of money in my book. I'm sure it is in yours too. But the best thing is, we need to talk about what the MiSTer can actually do for you. Because if you're just playing retro consoles on CRT TVs, you don't need to worry about upscaling that image whatsoever. It always looks good. But if you're playing these on a 4K TV with original consoles, you need something like the FrameMeister. $500. It might not be the nicest scaler anymore, but if you want to use what I use to do these videos, you're at $500. The MiSTer, however, has a scaler built internally, so for that $400, you're not just getting the device, you're getting a comprehensive scaler that's going to allow you to change any of the video settings like the RetroTink 5X, like the open source scan converter, or like the FrameMeister would do built in. So once we factor in the cost of the MiSTer, all of the hardware, and the upscaler, our total savings now is looking more like $1,960. You're getting real close to that magic $2,000 number. But we're not done yet. So let's head over to Nintendo Entertainment System and Famicom Disk System territory because of course we got the NES in North America, but in Japan they had the Famicom and the disk system, and those are two separate devices. And I'm going to compare to the Sharp Twin Famicom pricing because that is the hardware that I own. It's broken in my closet right now and I need to fix it, but those are two more devices that you need to be able to do what MiSTer is doing. And honestly, the Famicom disk system is incredible and I recommend everyone checking it out for the core. But again, if we're collecting all original hardware with flash carts to be able to make sure that we can play all of those Nintendo and Famicom disk system games, we're looking at a total savings of $2260. We've cracked that $2,000 mark. But no, we are not done because there's so many other cores. You want to talk about Game Boy with a flash cart? About $150. Not the most expensive thing in the world, but not cheap. Game Boy Advance, pretty damn similar. Good example, $150. That's for the flash cart and a decent looking console. The Atari Lynx is quite expensive. With the flash cart, we're talking about $500. But let's move on to arcade stuff. The Capcom Play System multi-board, $750. That's not cheap. Computers, MSX, good example, flash cart too, another $500, and you can see these numbers are just going and going and going. We got the Sega Master System, awesome console with a flash cart, $250, but this core also plays Game Gear games, so a nice condition Game Gear without an LCD screen modified with flash card is $200. It just keeps going up and up and up, and you can start seeing the value proposition of something like MiSTer becoming really, really nice, because we've currently saved about $4,560. We're getting real close to that $500 mark, but let's push a little more. The Jotego Beta Course or CPS2, $600 for a multi-board if you can find a good deal. And let's not even talk about all the other arcade cores that I'm not even comparing original hardware pricing to. There are so many cores that I'm not even talking about the hardware cost on, and this value proposition is just going to skyrocket. What we really need to do is break down the final numbers and show you guys exactly how much you're saving if you buy a MiSTer versus buying all this original hardware. Because like I said, I understand $400 is not cheap. I don't spend $400 every day. That would be crazy. But we've totally saved right now about $5,160. But let's break it down to a per core cost. So on the GitHub, I counted between arcade and console, 63 available cores. If we divide 400 by 63, we have a per core cost of $6.35, and that is extremely cheap. If we take into account the arcade cores with the Jotego CPS stuff, but not CPS2, it's 108. We divide the total by 400, and we get $2.33 per core. Now that is extremely cheap. We've saved over $5,000 and we're paying $2.33 per core. Granted, you might not use all the cores, but even if you only use a quarter, you're underneath $10. And if you own all the games I've shown it on my comparison series, it's kind of weird to say, it's $20,000 worth of hardware and games that I've shown so far. So yeah, is MiSTer worth it? Absolutely. Is $400 cheap? No. I understand you want to invest your money wisely, and when you're thinking, is this for me? Just kind of go through the math and decide how much am I saving versus what I want to play. Short of that, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Love chatting with you guys. I'll be back next week with another MiSTer video, and I'll have videos throughout the week as well. But do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. And don't be like me. Don't buy all this stuff. See you next time, guys. Bye-bye.